Marcus Chun wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stepped out of the mining facility's airlock. Another 16-hour shift in the asteroid belt's most profitable mining station, and his body ached in places he didn't know existed. The artificial gravity here was set to Earth normal, but something about working in space always left him feeling drained. The corridor buzzed with activity despite the late hour. Miners from different shifts crossed paths, their heavy boots echoing against the metal floors. The air recyclers hummed constantly, a sound that had become as familiar as his own heartbeat after 3 years working the outer rim. Marcus pulled his tablet from his belt and checked the shift reports. Productivity was up 12% this quarter, which meant bigger bonuses for everyone. The thought brought a small smile to his weathered face. Maybe he could finally afford that little house back on Earth he'd been dreaming about. As he made his way toward the residential quarters, something caught his eye. A figure sat huddled in one of the maintenance alcoves, partially hidden behind a support beam. At first glance, he thought it was another miner taking a break, but something seemed off about the silhouette. Marcus slowed his pace and looked closer. The figure was small, much smaller than any adult human, and wearing what looked like a tattered environmental suit. But the proportions were all wrong. The limbs were too long, the torso too narrow, and the head had an unusual shape, even accounting for the helmet. His first instinct was to keep walking. Space stations attracted all kinds of refugees and stowaways, and getting involved usually meant paperwork and complications. But something about the way the figure sat, shoulders trembling slightly, made him pause. "Hey," he called out softly, not wanting to startle whoever it was. "You okay over there?" The figure's head snapped up, and Marcus caught a glimpse of large, dark eyes through a cracked visor. Definitely not human. The eyes were too big, set in a face that was pale blue-gray and angular in ways that human faces simply weren't. The alien scrambled to its feet, which Marcus now noticed ended in what looked like elongated toes rather than boots. It backed against the wall, clearly terrified, and Marcus could see its whole body shaking. "Easy, easy," Marcus said, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you." The alien's mouth moved, but no sound came through the damaged helmet. Marcus could see that the environmental suit was in terrible condition, with patches and tears that had been hastily sealed with what looked like industrial tape. The life support indicators on the chest panel were blinking red. Marcus looked around the corridor. Most of the other miners had passed by, and this section was relatively quiet. He made a decision that would change everything. "Look, I don't know who you are or how you got here, but you're in trouble," he said, speaking slowly and clearly. "That suit's failing, isn't it?" The alien nodded once, a very human gesture that somehow made Marcus feel more confident about approaching. "I've got a private quarters down the hall. Basic life support, food, water. You want to come with me?" The alien stared at him for a long moment. Marcus could see the conflict in those large eyes, fear warring with desperation. Finally, the creature nodded again. Marcus gestured for the alien to follow him, and they made their way down the corridor together. He tried to walk casually, as if nothing unusual was happening, but his heart was pounding. Harboring an unregistered alien on a corporate mining station was a serious offense. If security found out, he'd be facing prison time at minimum. His quarters were small, but comfortable, designed for long-term residents rather than the cramped bunks most miners shared. As soon as the door sealed behind them, Marcus activated the privacy locks and turned to face his unexpected guest. "Okay, let's get you out of that suit before it fails completely," he said. The alien hesitated, then reached up and began working the helmet's release mechanism. Marcus heard the hiss of escaping air, followed by a soft gasp as the helmet came free. Marcus found himself staring at a face unlike anything he'd ever seen. The alien was definitely female, with delicate features that were both exotic and somehow familiar. Her skin was the pale blue-gray he'd glimpsed through the visor, with subtle patterns of darker blue along her cheekbones and forehead. Her hair was white as starlight and fell in waves to her shoulders. But It was her eyes that captured his attention. They were large and dark blue, almost violet, with an intelligence and depth that was unmistakably sentient. She was looking at him with the same curiosity he felt, mixed with lingering fear. "Ah," Marcus said, feeling somewhat foolish but not knowing what else to say. "I'm Marcus." She tilted her head slightly, considering. When she spoke, her voice was soft and musical, but the words were in a language Marcus had never heard before. The sounds flowed together like water, rising and falling in patterns that seemed almost like singing. Marcus shook his head and pointed to himself. "Marcus," he repeated, then pointed to her questioningly. She seemed to understand. She placed a hand over her heart and said something that sounded like Zara. She repeated it more slowly, watching his face. "Zara," Marcus said, and she nodded with what might have been a smile. Over the next few hours, Marcus learned more about his unexpected guest than he'd thought possible without a common language. Zara was clearly intelligent and resourceful. She helped him remove her damaged environmental suit, revealing clothing underneath that was made from some kind of fabric he didn't recognize. It seemed to shimmer slightly in the light, changing color from deep purple to black depending on the angle. She was hungry, Marcus realized when he offered her some of his ration bars, and she devoured them with obvious relief. She was also exhausted, swaying on her feet as they worked together to set up a makeshift bed on his small couch. As Zara curled up under a spare blanket, Marcus sat at his desk and tried to process what had happened. He'd just taken in an alien refugee, someone who was clearly in serious trouble. The smart thing would be to turn her over to station security in the morning. They'd figure out where she came from and what to do with her. But looking at her sleeping form, seeing how young and vulnerable she appeared, Marcus knew he couldn't do that. Corporate security wasn't known for their gentle treatment of unauthorized aliens. If Zara was running from something, handing her over might be signing her death warrant. His tablet chimed with an incoming message, making him jump. It was from his supervisor, reminding all miners about increased security sweeps due to reports of unauthorized personnel on the station. Marcus's blood ran cold as he read the details. Someone had reported seeing suspicious figures in the maintenance areas. He looked over at Zara, who was still sleeping peacefully despite everything she'd been through. Whatever had brought her here, whatever she was running from, it was serious enough that she'd risked everything to get to this remote mining station. Marcus made his decision. He deleted the security message without responding and began planning how to keep Zara hidden until he could figure out what to do next. It was crazy, dangerous, and probably suicidal for his career. But looking at her peaceful face, he knew it was the right thing to do. What he didn't know was that Zara's arrival would set in motion events that would change not just his life, but the entire relationship between humanity and the galaxy beyond. Hidden in her damaged environmental suit were data cores containing information that would revolutionize human understanding of faster-than-light travel, energy production, and interstellar communication. Zara wasn't just a refugee. She was a scientist from the Kepler Confederation, an alliance of worlds that had been watching humanity's rapid expansion into space with growing concern. She'd stolen the technology to prevent her own government from using it to subjugate emerging species like humans. But in doing so, she'd made herself a target for the most powerful military force in the galaxy. As Marcus settled into his chair to keep watch over his sleeping guest, ships were already moving in the darkness beyond the asteroid belt. The Confederation had tracked Zara's escape pod to this sector, and they were closing in fast. They would stop at nothing to reclaim their stolen technology and eliminate the witness who could expose their plans. But they had underestimated two things. First, Zara's determination to protect the species she'd come to admire from afar. And second, the willingness of an ordinary human miner to risk everything for a stranger in need. Marcus checked his shift schedule and realized he had 18 hours before he needed to report back to work. 18 hours to figure out how to keep Zara safe and, maybe, if he was lucky, learn why she'd chosen to trust him with what was obviously a dangerous secret. Outside his small window, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the drama playing out in the cramped quarters of a mining station. But for Marcus Chun and the alien girl he brought home, those 18 hours would determine the fate of two species and the future of the galaxy itself. The adventure was just beginning. Marcus woke to the soft sound of humming. For a moment, he was disoriented, unsure why he was sleeping in his desk chair with a crick in his neck. Then, he remembered. Zara. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor near his small kitchen area, surrounded by components from her damaged environmental suit. Her fingers moved with precise, delicate motions as she worked on what appeared to be a small electronic device. The humming was coming from her, a melodic sound that seemed to help her concentrate. "Morning," Marcus said softly, not wanting to startle her. Zara looked up and offered what was definitely a smile. She gestured to the device in her hands and said something in her flowing language, then held it up for him to see. It was about the size of his palm, made from materials Marcus didn't recognize. The surface was smooth and dark, but as he watched, patterns of light began to dance across it. Zara touched one of the patterns, and the device spoke in her voice, but the words were in English. "Hello, Marcus Chun." Marcus nearly fell out of his chair. "How did you—" Zara grinned and pointed to the device, then to herself. She touched another pattern, and the device continued speaking in her translated voice. "I am Zara Velnith of the Science Cast, Kepler Confederation. This is a linguistic interface device. It samples speech patterns and builds translation matrices. You're a scientist," Marcus said, beginning to understand. "And this thing learned English from listening to me talk last night." "Correct," the device replied, though Zara's lips moved as she spoke. "Your language structure is remarkably similar to trade standard." The device adapted quickly. Marcus stood and moved closer, fascinated despite his concerns about discovery. "Zara, why are you here? What happened to you?" The light patterns on the device shifted as Zara spoke, and when the translation came, her tone was serious. "I'm a fugitive, Marcus Chun. I have stolen information that my government intends to use for conquest. Information about your species." "Conquest." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of information?" Zara set down the translation device and pulled another component from her suit, this one larger and more complex. It hummed with energy as she activated it, projecting a three-dimensional map into the air above their heads. Marcus gasped. The map showed local space in incredible detail, far more than any human star chart. He could see the mining station where they sat, the asteroid belt, the major shipping lanes, even the positions of ships that were currently in transit. But what caught his attention were the red markers scattered throughout human space. Each marker represents a human colony, space station, or major shipping route. Zara's device translated. "My government has been mapping your expansion for 50 years. They believe humans will eventually challenge Confederation dominance." "So they're planning to attack us?" Marcus asked, studying the map with growing alarm. "Worse," Zara replied. "They plan to guide your development, to ensure you never become a threat. Secret manipulation of your technology, your politics, your expansion routes. They want to make humanity dependent on Confederation oversight." Marcus felt anger building in his chest. Humanity had fought so hard to reach the stars, to build their scattered colonies and mining operations. The idea that aliens had been watching and planning to control them was infuriating. "But you're trying to stop them," he said. Zara nodded, and for the first time since activating the translator, she spoke directly without using the device. Her accent was thick but understandable. "I study human transmissions for years. You are a remarkable species. You do not deserve slavery." The sincerity in her voice made Marcus's anger fade, replaced by gratitude and something else he couldn't quite name. "What did you steal?" Zara touched a control on her device, and the holographic map changed, showing what looked like technical schematics. Quantum tunneling engines. Gravitational field manipulators. consciousness transfer technology. All of it based on human theoretical work that you do not yet know you have developed. I don't understand. Your Dr. Sarah Kim at Luna University published paper on quantum consciousness 3 years ago. Your Dr. James Morrison at Mars technical theorized about gravitational field manipulation 18 months ago. Confederation scientists took their work and completed it. They plan to give it to select human colonies, creating dependence. Marcus stared at the schematics, trying to process what he was seeing. These technologies would revolutionize human civilization, Zara agreed. Faster-than-light travel without dangerous jumps. Artificial gravity without rotation. Even temporary consciousness backup for dangerous operations. But if introduced through Confederation channels, they would come with hidden control mechanisms. A soft chime from Marcus's communication panel interrupted them. He checked the message, and his heart sank. Security sweep of this residential section in 2 hours. They're looking for unauthorized personnel. Zara quickly deactivated her devices and began packing them away. I must leave. I have put you in danger. No, Marcus said firmly. We need to get this information to the right people. Do you have somewhere safe to go? Zara shook her head. Confederation ships track me here. They arrive within days. Marcus made a decision that surprised him with its certainty. Then, we leave together. I know people who need to see this. Scientists, military officials, people who can do something with this information. You would abandon your life for alien stranger? Zara asked, studying his face intently. My life is mining asteroids for corporate overlords. Marcus replied. If what you're showing me is real, then humanity needs to know about it. That's more important than my mining quota. Zara was quiet for a moment, then spoke without using her translator. In my culture, such action creates life debt. Sacred bond. I don't know what that means, but right now we need to focus on getting out of here, Marcus said, moving to his personal locker. I've got about 10,000 credits saved up. That's enough to book passage on a civilian transport. He began pulling out his few valuable possessions, including a datapad containing his personal research into asteroid mineral compositions. It wasn't much, but it represented 3 years of work. Zara watched him pack with an expression Marcus was beginning to recognize as her thinking face. Finally, she spoke. Marcus Chun, what do you know of human colony ship New Horizons? Marcus paused in his packing. It launched about 6 months ago, heading for the Tau Ceti system. First attempt at establishing a colony beyond the 50 light-year limit. The ship carried experimental communication array, yes, based on quantum entanglement. Yeah, it was a big deal. Supposed to allow real-time communication across interstellar distances. Marcus felt a sinking sensation. Why are you asking? Zara activated her map again, zooming in on a region of space far beyond human territory. New Horizons did not fail because of technical problems. Confederation intercepted ship, disabled crew with neural dampening fields, took communication technology. The colonists are alive. Marcus felt a surge of hope and anger. Alive but unconscious in Confederation research facility. They use humans to test how your species responds to various control technologies. The room seemed to spin around Marcus. 3,000 colonists, including entire families, were being used as test subjects by aliens who saw humanity as a problem to be managed. His hands clenched into fists. Where are they holding them? Zara touched her map, highlighting a system Marcus didn't recognize. Kepler Station Primary Research Facility. But Marcus Chun, facility is heavily defended. No rescue is possible. Maybe not, Marcus said, his mind racing. But if we can get this information to Earth Command, they might be able to do something. At the very least, they need to know what happened to New Horizons. The communication panel chimed again. Security was beginning their sweep 1 level down. They had maybe 30 minutes before the search reached this section. Marcus grabbed his emergency kit and what little money he had. Zara finished packing her technology into a small backpack she'd improvised from clothing and suit components. As they prepared to leave, she touched his arm. Marcus Chun, you should know. Confederation believes humans are dangerous because you do not follow expected patterns. What do you mean? Most species, when they reach space, become cautious. They expand slowly, build defenses, avoid risks. Humans do opposite. You take incredible chances, help strangers, sacrifice for abstract principles. Confederation finds this behavior unpredictable and, therefore, threatening. Marcus couldn't help but smile grimly. So they're afraid of us because we do crazy things like help alien refugees? Precisely, Zara replied, and her expression suggested she found the irony amusing as well. They made their way carefully through the station's maintenance corridors, avoiding the main thoroughfares where security was conducting their search. Marcus knew these passages well from his years of repair work, and he was able to guide them toward the civilian docking bays without being detected. As they moved, Marcus found himself thinking about what Zara had told him. Humanity was facing a threat they didn't even know existed, from aliens who wanted to control their development. But they also had an unexpected ally, a scientist who had risked everything to warn them. The civilian transport Lucky Strike was a converted cargo hauler that ran supplies between the Outer Rim mining stations and the inner system colonies. Marcus had traveled on her before, and he knew Captain Torres would take passengers with no questions asked if the price was right. As they approached the docking bay, Zara suddenly stopped. Marcus-chun, I must ask something difficult. What is it? If we succeed in warning your people, if Earth Command learns truth about Confederation plans, there will be war. My species and yours will fight. Many will die on both sides. Marcus considered her words carefully. Are you saying we shouldn't warn them? I'm saying you should understand the consequences. I have doomed my people to conflict with yours. This knowledge weighs on me. Marcus turned to face her fully. Zara, if the Confederation gets their way, there won't be a war because humanity will never have a chance to fight. We'll be controlled from birth to death, our potential limited by alien overseers. That's not peace, it's slavery. Zara nodded slowly. You are wise, Marcus-chun. I chose correctly when I followed you. You didn't follow me, Marcus corrected. I found you hiding in an alcove, remember? Zara's expression became something Marcus was learning to interpret as mischief. I was not hiding randomly, human friend. I watched you for 3 days before choosing my moment. You were kind to other miners. You helped when asked. You did not report smugglers you witnessed. I followed you home deliberately. Marcus stared at her in amazement. You've been planning this? Since my escape pod arrived in Asteroid Belt. I needed human ally who would listen, who would care about fate of strangers. You were a logical choice. As they boarded the Lucky Strike and began the journey toward Earth, Marcus realized that everything he thought he knew about the last few days was wrong. Zara hadn't been a random refugee he'd helped out of kindness. She'd been an alien scientist who had carefully chosen him as humanity's best hope for survival. The responsibility was terrifying, but somehow, looking at Zara's determined face as she studied her stolen data, Marcus felt ready for whatever came next. The journey to Earth took 6 days aboard the Lucky Strike, and Marcus spent most of that time learning things that changed his understanding of the universe forever. Zara's translation device had become sophisticated enough to handle complex concepts, and she used it to share knowledge that no human had ever possessed. Your solar system is considered young and primitive by galactic standards, Zara explained as they sat in their small shared cabin. Most sapient species take thousands of years to progress from first spaceflight to interstellar colonization. Humans accomplished it in less than 2 centuries. Marcus looked up from the technical specifications Zara had been teaching him to read. Is that why the Confederation sees us as a threat? Partly, Zara replied, manipulating her holographic display to show a timeline of galactic civilization. But the real concern is this. The display changed to show incident reports, each one marked with human involvement. Marcus saw rescue operations where human ships had risked destruction to save alien vessels in distress. Trade negotiations where humans had offered technology freely rather than demanding tribute. First contact scenarios where human representatives had offered aid before establishing political advantage. I don't understand, Marcus said. These all seem like good things. They are by human standards, Zara agreed. But they violate every established pattern of interspecies contact. Look, the display showed similar scenarios involving other species. In each case, the response was cautious, self-interested, focused on establishing dominance or extracting maximum benefit. The contrast with human behavior was stark. We help people, Marcus said slowly. Other species don't. Other species help their own, Zara corrected. Humans help strangers, even alien strangers. This behavior is unprecedented and unpredictable. It makes Confederation leadership nervous. Marcus thought about his own decision to help Zara, about the human colony ship crew that had volunteered for a dangerous mission to benefit all humanity, about the countless examples of human cooperation and sacrifice he'd witnessed throughout his life. So they want to control us because we're too helpful? They want to control you because helpful strangers eventually become powerful allies, Zara replied. And the Confederation has many enemies who would benefit from human friendship. The ship's intercom crackled to life, interrupting their conversation. All passengers, we're approaching Luna Orbital Station. Prepare for customs inspection. Marcus felt his stomach tighten with anxiety. Getting past customs with an unregistered alien and stolen Confederation technology would be challenging, to say the least. But Zara seemed calm as she packed away her devices. You have plan? She asked, noticing his worried expression. Sort of, Marcus replied. My sister works customs enforcement at Luna Station. If we can get to her, she might be able to help us bypass the official screening. You trust your sister with alien refugee and galactic conspiracy? Marcus grinned. Sarah's always said, I don't take enough risks. Wait until she sees what I brought home from the asteroid belt. Luna Station was a sprawling complex of docking bays, commercial districts, and administrative offices that served as humanity's gateway to the outer system. As the Lucky Strike approached their assigned berth, Marcus could see the familiar bustle of cargo handlers, customs officials, and travelers that made the station feel like home. Captain Torres had been discreet about his unusual passengers, but Marcus knew their luck wouldn't hold once they tried to enter the station proper. He and Zara would need to move quickly and carefully to avoid detection. Remember, he told Zara as they prepared to disembark, keep your hood up and let me do the talking. Human customs agents are trained to spot unusual behavior, but they're not looking for aliens. Zara pulled the hood of Marcus's spare jacket over her distinctive features and nodded. I understand. Try to appear normal. That's going to be the hard part, Marcus muttered. They made their way through the passenger terminal, blending in with the crowd of miners, traders, and tourists returning from the outer system. Marcus kept his breathing steady and his movements casual despite the racing of his heart. The customs checkpoint was staffed by 3 officers, but Marcus recognized only one of them. Sarah Chun stood at the far scanner station, her dark hair pulled back in regulation style, and her expression professionally neutral. She was younger than Marcus by 2 years, but her promotion to senior customs agent had come faster than his advancement in the mining corps. Marcus guided Zara towards Sarah's station, hoping his sister will be able to help without compromising her career. As they approached, Sarah's scanner beeped an alert. Her eyes flicked up to Marcus's face, and he saw recognition followed immediately by suspicion. Marcus? What are you doing here? Sarah asked, her voice carefully neutral. I thought you were working the series belt for another 6 months. Change of plans, Marcus replied, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. I need to get to Earth for a family emergency. Sarah's eyes moved to Zara, taking in the concealing hood and the way she stood slightly behind Marcus. Professional instincts were clearly triggering warnings in Sarah's mind. And who's your companion? Sarah asked, her hand moving subtly toward her security alert button. Marcus made a decision that would either save them or doom them both. He leaned forward and spoke in a voice so quiet that only Sarah could hear him. Sarah, I need your help with something that's going to sound crazy, but I need you to trust me for the next 5 minutes, and then I promise I'll explain everything. Sarah stared at him for a long moment, weighing family loyalty against professional duty. Finally, she sighed and gestured them to her private screening room. 5 minutes, Marcus. Then, I'm calling security. Once they were alone in the small room, Marcus pulled back Zara's hood and watched his sister's face as she got her first look at an alien. To Sarah's credit, she didn't scream or faint. She did grab the edge of the table for support. Marcus, what the hell have you gotten yourself into? The future of humanity, Marcus replied, and quickly began explaining everything that had happened since he'd found Zara on the mining station. He showed Sarah the stolen data, the maps of Confederation space, the evidence of the missing colony ship. Sarah listened with growing amazement and alarm. As a customs officer, she was trained to spot smugglers and contraband, but nothing in her experience had prepared her for alien fugitives carrying evidence of interstellar conspiracy. Assuming I believe any of this, Sarah said when Marcus finished, what exactly do you want me to do? Help us get to Earth, Marcus replied. This information needs to reach someone who can act on it. Someone in Earth Command or the Colonial Administration. Marcus, I can't just wave you through customs with an unregistered alien and stolen technology. I could lose my job, go to prison, or worse. Zara, who had been quietly following the conversation through her translator, stepped forward and spoke directly to Sarah. Officer Chun, your brother risked everything to help stranger in need. This choice saved not just my life, but potentially your entire species. Can you make similar choice? Sarah looked between Marcus and Zara, clearly struggling with the decision. Show me the data about the colony ship, she said finally. Zara activated her holographic display, showing the technical details of the New Horizons capture and the location of the research facility where the colonists were being held. Sarah studied the information with professional attention to detail. 3,000 people, she said quietly, including the Morrison family from my academy class. The Confederation is using them to test control technologies, Zara explained. Neural programming, behavioral modification, genetic manipulation. They want to understand how to manage human populations. Sarah was quiet for several minutes, staring at the holographic display. When she spoke, her voice was steady, but Marcus could see the anger in her eyes. What do you need from me? Transport authorization to Earth and temporary identity credentials for Zara, Marcus replied. Just enough to get us to Geneva and the Colonial Administration headquarters. Sarah moved to her workstation and began typing rapidly. I'm listing Zara as Dr. Zara Velnith, xenobiologist attached to the University of Luna Research Program. Temporary visa for academic consultation, sponsored by the Chun Family Trust. We don't have a family trust, Marcus pointed out. We do now, Sarah replied grimly. I'm also filing a priority communication to Admiral Harrison's office at Earth Command. She'll want to hear this directly. As Sarah worked, Zara approached Marcus with a thoughtful expression. Your sister shows same pattern as you, Marcus Chun. Risk-taking for benefit of strangers. It's a family trait, Marcus replied. Usually gets us in trouble. In this case, it may save 2 civilizations, Zara said. Within an hour, they were aboard a fast transport heading for Earth orbit. Sarah had used her influence to secure them passage on a Colonial Administration courier ship, which meant they would reach Geneva in less than 18 hours rather than the usual 3-day civilian route. As Earth grew larger in the transport's viewports, Marcus found himself thinking about how much his life had changed in just over a week. He'd gone from being a simple asteroid miner to carrying the fate of humanity in a stolen alien data core. Are you afraid? Zara asked, noticing his quiet mood. Terrified, Marcus admitted. What if no one believes us? What if they do believe us, but can't act in time? What if starting this war gets millions of people killed? Then, we will have honored your species' greatest strength, Zara replied. The willingness to risk everything for what is right, even when the outcome is uncertain. The transport docked at Geneva orbital platform as the sun was setting over the European continent far below. Through the station's viewing dome, Marcus could see the lights of cities beginning to twinkle in the gathering darkness. Somewhere down there, decisions would be made that would determine whether those lights continued to shine freely or dimmed under alien control. Admiral Harrison's office had sent a military escort to meet them at the docking port. As they were guided through the station's corridors toward the shuttle bay, Marcus caught sight of Earth through one of the massive viewing windows. He'd never thought of his home planet as small or vulnerable before, but after seeing Zara's maps of Confederation space and learning about the forces arrayed against humanity, Earth looked terrifyingly fragile. 3 billion people going about their daily lives, unaware that their future was being decided by a minor and an alien scientist who had trusted each other enough to risk everything. Whatever happens down there, Marcus told Zara as their shuttle prepared to depart for Earth, I want you to know that helping you was the right choice. Zara smiled, an expression that had become genuinely warm over their journey together. Life debt is honored on both sides, Marcus Chun. Your people will not face this threat alone. As their shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, carrying the most important information in human history, neither of them could imagine how profoundly their partnership would change the galaxy. The war that was coming would indeed be terrible, but it would also forge an alliance between humans and aliens that would reshape the balance of power among the stars. The real adventure was just beginning. The Colonial Administration building in Geneva was a towering structure of glass and steel that housed the government departments responsible for humanity's expansion into space. Marcus had seen it in news broadcasts and educational programs, but standing in its shadow made him feel smaller than he'd expected. Admiral Linda Harrison was waiting for them in a secure conference room on the 50th floor. She was a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to take in every detail of her surroundings. Behind her stood 2 other officials, Dr. Elizabeth Tanaka from the Colonial Science Division and General Robert Morrison, whose last name made Marcus's stomach clench. Mr. Chun, Dr. Velnith, Admiral Harrison said, gesturing for them to sit at the polished conference table. I've read the preliminary report from Luna Station. If what you're telling us is true, we're facing the greatest crisis in human history. General Morrison leaned forward, his face grim. Before we proceed, I need to know about my nephew. James Morrison was chief engineer aboard the New Horizons. Is he alive? Zara activated her translation device and spoke carefully. The Confederation captures ships intact when possible, General Morrison. They need living subjects for their research. Based on their standard procedures, your nephew and the other colonists should be alive, but unconscious in suspension chambers. The relief that crossed the general's face was immediately replaced by determination. Then, we're going to get them back. General, we need to understand what we're dealing with before we make any decisions about military action, Admiral Harrison said firmly. Dr. Velnith, please show us everything. For the next 3 hours, Zara shared the complete scope of Confederation plans for humanity. She displayed star charts showing the positions of Confederation fleets, technical specifications for their weapons and defenses, and detailed analyses of human psychology and sociology that the aliens had compiled over decades of secret observation. Dr. Tanaka was particularly interested in the stolen human research that the Confederation had weaponized. These equations, she said, studying Zara's holographic displays, they're based on work by our own scientists, but taken far beyond anything we've achieved. The Confederation has been manipulating human research for years, Zara explained. They provide subtle guidance through academic channels, ensuring that your most brilliant minds develop technologies that can be easily controlled or disabled. Controlled how? Admiral Harrison asked. Zara manipulated her display to show a complex schematic. Quantum entanglement communicators, gravitational field generators, consciousness transfer systems all contain hidden subsystems that respond to Confederation override codes. Any human colony using their gifts can be shut down instantly. Marcus studied the faces around the table and saw growing anger and determination. These were people who had dedicated their lives to human expansion and freedom, and Learning about decades of alien manipulation was clearly affecting them deeply. What about defenses? General Morrison asked. Do we have any chance of fighting them? Convention barfare. No, sarà riplaida honestly. Confederation ships are larger, faster, and better armed than anything in human space. But they have vulnerabilities. She changed the display to show tactical information. Confederation strategy depends on technological superiority and psychological warfare. They expect enemy species to surrender when faced with overwhelming force. They do not prepare for opponents who fight beyond logical odds. Meaning, Admiral Harrison prompted. Meaning they have never fought humans before, Marcus said, beginning to understand. They don't know how we respond to impossible odds. Zara nodded approvingly. Precisely. Confederation doctrine assumes rational behavior. When faced with superior enemy, species typically negotiate, surrender, or flee. Humans have pattern of doing opposite. Dr. Tanaka looked up from her analysis of the stolen technology. There's something else. If I'm reading this correctly, the Confederation's most advanced ships use quantum consciousness cores for navigation and targeting. Living minds merged with computer systems. Correct, Zara confirmed. Elite pilots undergo consciousness transfer procedure. Their minds become part of ship systems. But that means the ships are vulnerable to psychological warfare, Dr. Tanaka continued excitedly. If we could find a way to communicate with those merged consciousnesses, we might be able to turn their own ships against them. Zara's expression became troubled. Dr. Tanaka, consciousness transfer is not voluntary. Confederation uses prisoners, political dissidents, captured enemy personnel. The minds in their ships are slaves. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Confederation wasn't just planning to control humanity, they were already using captured minds from other species as components in their war machines. General Morrison was the first to speak. How many ships are we talking about? Primary assault fleet contains 47 vessels with consciousness cores, Zara replied. Secondary fleets add approximately 200 more. 247 enslaved minds, Admiral Harrison said quietly, plus 3,000 human colonists and unknown numbers of prisoners from other species. Marcus felt a surge of the same determination that had led him to help Zara in the first place. We have to try to save them. All of them. Mr. Chun, you're talking about taking on the most powerful military force in the galaxy, General Morrison pointed out. So, Marcus replied, surprising himself with his boldness. We're human. We do impossible things all the time. Zara smiled at his response, then turned to address the room. There is possibility, though extremely dangerous. I have access codes to Confederation secure networks. If we could reach Kepler Station where prisoners are held, we might be able to free not just human colonists, but consciousness is trapped in ship cores. A rescue mission to the heart of Confederation space, Admiral Harrison mused. It would have to be a volunteer operation. I couldn't order anyone to take those odds. I volunteer, Marcus said immediately. Mr. Chun, you're a civilian mining engineer, not a military operative, General Morrison objected. I'm also the only human who Zara trusts completely, Marcus replied. If she's going back into Confederation space, I'm going with her. As am I, said a new voice from the conference room doorway. Everyone turned to see Sarah Chun enter, still wearing her customs officer uniform. Sarah, what are you doing here? Marcus asked. Admiral Harrison's office contacted Luna Station about technical expertise needed for analyzing alien systems, Sarah replied. I have more experience with alien technology than anyone else in the Customs Service, thanks to recent events. Admiral Harrison looked between the Chun siblings with what might have been amusement. It seems the family trait for impossible choices is strong. Ma'am, with respect, this isn't impossible, Sarah said firmly. It's just very dangerous. And if we don't act, the Confederation will have decades to prepare their control systems while humanity remains ignorant of the threat. Dr. Tanaka stood and moved to the window overlooking Geneva. We'll need to move fast. If the Confederation detects increased human military activity, They might accelerate their timeline. How long before their assault fleet arrives? General Morrison asked Zara. Based on their last position reports, approximately 6 weeks, Zara replied. But if they detect security breach, they will move immediately. Admiral Harrison was quiet for several minutes, clearly weighing impossible options. Finally, she turned back to the group. Dr. Velnith, if we attempted this rescue mission, what would we need? Fast ship capable of quantum tunneling, small crew to avoid detection, and willingness to fight against overwhelming odds, Zara replied. And if we succeed in freeing the prisoners? Then we might have allies with detailed knowledge of Confederation capabilities, Zara said. Some of the enslaved consciousnesses are from species with advanced military technology. Others have strategic intelligence from years of force service. Admiral, there's another consideration, Dr. Tanaka added. The stolen human research Dr. Velnith brought us. If we can understand how the Confederation has modified our own theories, we might be able to develop countermeasures. Admiral Harrison nodded slowly. General Morrison, begin assembling a volunteer mission team. Dr. Tanaka, start analyzing the alien technology with your best people. Dr. Velnith, I need you to brief our technical teams on Confederation capabilities and weaknesses. She turned to Marcus and Sarah. As for you two, I have a special assignment. We're going to need someone who understands both human psychology and alien thinking to help us prepare for what's coming. What kind of assignment? Marcus asked. We're going to contact every human colony and outpost in known space, Admiral Harrison replied. We're going to tell them the truth about what we're facing, and we're going to ask them to prepare for the fight of their lives. Over the next week, the Colonial Administration building became the center of the largest military and scientific mobilization in human history. Teams of engineers worked around the clock to analyze Zara's data and develop new technologies. Military planners studied Confederation tactics and searched for weaknesses. Diplomatic Corps members prepared messages for human colonies that would shatter their peaceful assumptions about the galaxy. Marcus found himself at the center of it all, serving as liaison between human officials and Zara, whose knowledge became more valuable with each passing day. She worked tirelessly, sharing everything she knew about Confederation technology, psychology, and strategy. But it was during quiet moments, when they were alone in the guest quarters the administration had provided, that Marcus learned the most important things about his alien friend. Zara, why did you really steal this information? He asked one evening as they reviewed mission plans. It couldn't have been just because you studied human transmissions. Zara was quiet for a long moment. My younger brother was navigator on research vessel that made first contact with your colony ship Endeavor 15 years ago. Official report said humans were hostile. That ship was destroyed in defense. But my brother sent private message before communications ended. She activated her personal device and played an audio file. Marcus couldn't understand the words, but he could hear the excitement and wonder in the young alien's voice. He said humans try to share their food, their music, their stories before anyone knew how to communicate properly, Zara translated. He said they were most fascinating people he had ever encountered. Then Confederation Command ordered their ship destroyed and all records classified. Marcus felt a chill of understanding. Your brother was killed for trying to protect human first contact? Worse, Zara replied. He was selected for consciousness transfer program. His mind was extracted and installed in ship navigation core as punishment for sympathizing with aliens. He is still alive, Marcus Chun, trapped in ship computer, forced to serve Confederation that murdered his body. The pieces fell into place for Marcus. This wasn't just about saving humanity or preventing alien conquest. For Zara, it was personal. Somewhere in the Confederation fleet approaching human space was her brother's enslaved consciousness, and she was determined to free him. The rescue mission, Marcus said, "You're hoping we can save the minds trapped in those ships." "I am hoping," Zara agreed. "But even if we fail, even if we all die in the attempt, at least my brother will know that someone tried to save him." that he was not forgotten. Now you follow me into darkness to save my family. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Admiral Harrison called an emergency meeting, and her expression was grimmer than Marcus had ever seen it. Confederation assault fleet has changed course, she announced. They're not heading for human colonies anymore. They're coming here, to Earth. How long? General Morrison asked. 18 days, Admiral Harrison replied. Whatever we're going to do, we have to do it now. Marcus looked at Zara, who had gone very still. They know, she said quietly. They know I am here. They know you have their stolen data. They come to destroy evidence and eliminate witnesses. Then we go to them, Marcus said, standing up. We launch the rescue mission immediately, while they're still in transit. Hit Kepler Station while their main fleet is racing toward Earth. Mr. Chun, that's suicide, General Morrison objected. We be trapped behind enemy lines with no support and no escape route. General, Zara said, speaking directly to him. If Confederation fleet reaches Earth with full strength, your homeworld will be conquered within hours. But if we can free enslaved consciousnesses in their ships, if we can turn their own vessels against them, we might have a chance, Admiral Harrison finished. A very small chance, but better than none. She looked around the room at the assembled officials, scientists, and military officers. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to attempt the most desperate rescue mission in human history. We're going to steal the most advanced ships in the galaxy and use them to save our homeworld. Marcus felt the same surge of impossible determination that had carried him through every crisis since finding Zara in that maintenance alcove. When do we leave? Tomorrow, Admiral Harrison replied. And may whatever gods watch over humanity have mercy on us all. As the meeting dispersed and teams rushed to prepare for the mission, Marcus realized that his simple life as an asteroid miner was truly over. In 18 days, either humanity would be free or enslaved. Either the galaxy would see the birth of an unprecedented alliance or the extinction of human independence. But as he looked at Zara's determined face and thought about her brother trapped in alien machinery, about 3,000 human colonists awaiting rescue, about the millions of enslaved minds throughout Confederation space, Marcus knew that some things were worth risking everything for. The real test of humanity's spirit was about to begin.